Hello those students and welcome to your math lesson. In today's lesson we'll be starting another topic. I'm sure you can recall in the previous lesson we looked at variation. Today we're going to be looking at mensuration. Mensuration is a simple topic but many people get to confuse the formulas learned under mensuration. So our goal when we're looking at this topic is to let you understand how each of these formulas come about. In today's lesson we'll be looking at partly the surface area of solids. Under mensuration, the main things you look at are found in the surface area of solids and the volume of these solids. Well, you might be asking yourself already, what are solids? Well, solids are simply objects which are three-dimensional. The common objects we'll find are the cylinder, the cube, the cuboid or rectangular prism, and the cone. Under this lesson or under the surface area, these are the four solid figures we're going to be looking at. But in today's lesson, we'll just look at two of these. So if you want to know those two we'll cover, be sure to hang around and wait for the video to end, right? Yeah. So we know what solids are. They are three-dimensional figures. This simply means they've got three dimensions or three lengths. The best example you can think of are the cube and the cuboid. They've got the length, and this is one of the dimensions. Then they've got two other dimensions, the breadth and the height. So this is how you can think of solids. Solids are simply three-dimensional figures. You can see there's the length, the breadth, and the height. With that said and done, now let's look at the surface area we're talking about. That's the main purpose of this lesson. It's to at least get how to find the surface area of one of these three-dimensional figures. And I said we're going to look at two of these four that I've just showed you. Now, before we go any further into finding them, there's another thing we should know. What is the surface area? We've said we're looking at surface area in this lesson, but what is this surface area we're talking about? Well, surface area is just simply the area on the surface of an object. So in this case, we're looking at solids, right? And we said there are solids such as cylinders, cubes, cuboids, and cones. So we'll be finding the area on the surface of these solids. So in this lesson, we'll be looking at the cube. Just after we define what surface area is, we'll go straight into looking what the surface area of the cube is, or how we can find the surface area of the cube. So the cube has got 6 surfaces. This face is a surface, this side is a surface. You agree with me, there's another side inside here, and there's another one behind, there's one on top, and one down at the bottom. So in total, a cube has got 6 surfaces. So we're going to find the area on all those surfaces, then add them. That's the basic thing about surface areas. So under all the solids we mentioned earlier, the cylinder, the cube, the cuboid, and the cone, we'll be just simply adding the area of each surface. I'm sure now you are eager to see how we find the surface area of a cube. Yeah, let's begin. The cube, I'm sure you know, comes from a square, right? So all its sides have got the same length. So that's very helpful for us to get the formula to find the surface area of a cube. So you agree with me, this diagram looks like a cube. It comes from a square. So all its sides have the same length. Now, there's one thing I need to show you for you to be able to easily remember these formulas for surface area. It's just imagining that we opened this cube. Imagine this is a box where you keep your coins. Now you rip it open, and therefore we've got a net such like this. So these are all the sides of the cube. There are 6 in total if you see. We've got the top, the bottom, the back, the right side, the left side, and lastly the front. So all these parts are present in this cube of ours. The top is the one on top. The green lines that I've just inserted are imaginary lines inside the cube. So for us to understand where the back is, it's that side behind. The bottom is this one here. The side is this one here. That's the right side, and then we've got the left side. Then we've got our top here, our front there. So there are 6 sides in total. Remember, there are 6 sides. It will be very helpful. Now, having that all these shapes that are squares have got the same length, right? We can find their area. In short, we take it as a 2-dimensional figure. There are 2 dimensions here. We've got one here and another one like that after we open. So this solid is made by 2-dimensional figures, like 6 squares. Then they join them up with some glue, then they make a cube, right? Yeah, so there's that one square making each side. Now, the lengths are the same, so it's the same as L and L. So how do we find the area of such a 2-dimensional figure? So we just multiply L times L, right? So area will be equal to L times L. And L times L is simply L squared, right? Yeah, now we said there are 6 sides in a cube. So what we do to find the total surface area of a cube is simply multiply the area of one square in the cube by all the sides, and therefore surface area will be equal to 6 multiplied by L squared, hence giving us 6L squared. So we can use the formula 6L squared to find the total surface area of a cube. I'm sure now there's no confusion. When somebody asks you the surface area of the cube, you even know how it comes about. It's because when we open up the solid, it's got 6 squares, and the area of a square is L squared. And to get the total surface area of a cube, we just multiply that L squared by 6. With that said and done, now let's look at the cuboid. The cuboid comes from a rectangle, so it's rectangular in shape. For the cube, we say that it comes from a square, so it's square-like in shape. So all its sides have got the same length. Now, that's not the case for the cuboid. Having that it's a rectangular in shape, it will have different measurements. Don't worry, we'll also break it down so that you understand how we can find the surface area. And I said we're going to find how we can solve the surface area for 2 solids. So remember, this is our second solid. So this is the last solid we're going to do in this lesson. But be sure to check out our next math lesson, which will cover another solid. So let's rip this cuboid down. Let's rip it out. Let's rip it. So it will give us such a net. So when we have such a diagram, it's simply called the net of a cuboid. For the cube, it was the net of the cube. It's just like we open a box up and see the shapes they used to make it. So like we did for the cube, we've got the top, the bottom, the back, the right side, the left side, and the front. These are the 6 rectangular shapes present in the cuboid. Now, I want you to analyze with me, right? I'm sure you know that these sides are occurring in pairs. So the front here and the back are the same. They've got the same dimensions. You also agree with me that the bottom and the top look similar and they have the same dimensions. This also applies to the sides. The right side and the left side have got the same dimensions. So, in short, there are three kinds of rectangles making up the cuboid. Right? Yes, I'm sure you understand. So, these rectangles will be very helpful for us to find the surface area of a cuboid. In a cube, it was simple. All the squares that were present in the cube had the same length. So we just had to find the area for one and multiply it by 6. Now, for this one, it's a bit of a different approach, but it's neither difficult. Now, remember that a cuboid has got the length, the breadth, and the height. So, if we take our top, it will have a length and a breadth, right? Yes. Now, let's start with the simplest, our face. You agree with me that our face has got a length and a height, right? In 2 dimension, it will be L at the bottom. Then this distance from here to here is the what? Height, right? Yeah. Now, we said that there are only 3 kinds of rectangles. So, our face is the same as our back, right? So, we multiply this rectangle by 2. So, there are 2 kinds of this rectangle in a cuboid. Or simply, when we find the area of this rectangle, we're finding the area for the face and the back. Now, let's look at another surface of the cuboid. This time we'll be looking at the top and the bottom. For the top and the bottom, you agree with me that it's got 2 dimensions, the length and the breadth, right? And we know that this triangle applies to the top and the bottom. So there are also 2 rectangles that have got this area. And now we go to our last surface, the sides. So for our sides, it's simple. For our sides, they include 2 dimensions, and that is no other than the B and the H. And remember, there are 2 sides, right? Yeah. So we also do that too. Now, think about it. If we add the number of faces, we get 6. So there are 2 kinds of this rectangle and another 2 and another 2. So it gives us all the total 6 surfaces. Our first one is for our front and back. Then our next one with L and B is for the top and bottom. So I'll put them in red. The last type of rectangle we have is the one for the sides, the right side and left side. I'll use black for this. Sure, with that said, it's all clear. I'll leave those markings or colors for you to recognize the shapes, but I'm sure you've understood this concept. Now, so this whole relation we're trying to figure out about the 3 rectangles can be simply written into a sentence. Area is equal to 2LH plus 2LB plus 2BH. That's simple. That's the total surface area of a cuboid. Now, in mathematics, we know that if there's something common, we can factorize it. We can get the common factor and put it outside the brackets. So that's what we'll just do. So which gives us the surface area of a cuboid being 2, then in brackets LH plus LB plus BH. It's not difficult to remember, you see. When you know where it comes from, it's easy for you to remember the whole formula. So don't forget that the cube has the surface area which can be found by 6L squared. And the cuboid, of course, we're just from finding it, it's 2LH plus LB plus BH. That's all for today's lesson. Be sure to check out for our next mathematics lesson, which will be looking at the remaining two solids.